The helicopter landed on a wide flat pad near the beach. One by one they stepped out, each of them squinting against the wind and the light. Zuri was the last to climb down. Her sneakers hit the concrete and she stood there for a moment, letting the salt air fill her lungs. The island stretched out before her like something from a movie she could not afford to watch. White sand, turquoise water, palm trees bending in the breeze like they were welcoming her personally. She told herself not to cry. She had cried enough already. In the school parking lot when her car got the boot because she was 3 months behind on payments. In her apartment kitchen when her mother called to say the electricity was getting shut off again. She had used up her crying. Now she was here, competing for something so big she could barely hold the idea of it in her head. A staff member in a crisp white uniform approached the group with a smile so polished it must have taken years to perfect. "Welcome to Callaway Island," she said. "Your rooms are ready. Dinner will be served at 7. Mr. Han extends his welcome and wishes you a successful 14 days. Sloane stepped forward immediately. She had the kind of walk that made people move out of her way without being asked. Tan blazer despite the heat. Structured bag, eyes already scanning the property like she was calculating square footage and resale value. "Where is he?" Sloane asked. "The billionaire." "Where is he exactly?" "Mr. Han is not on the island at this time," the staff member said smoothly. "But he will be watching." Sloane nodded slowly. "Good," she said, mostly to herself. Beckett came up beside them, tall and wide-shouldered, grinning like this was all a game he had already figured out how to win. He bumped Sloane lightly with his elbow. "Relax, boss lady. We just got here. At least pretend to enjoy the view." Sloane gave him a look sharp enough to cut glass. Ari stood slightly apart from the group, arms crossed, chin up. She had the posture of someone who had learned to walk into rooms ready for a fight because too many rooms had tried to push her out. Tianyu adjusted the strap of his bag without rushing, his expression calm and unreadable. He looked at the water for a long moment, then turned toward the main path. Zuri picked up her tote bag with the broken zipper and followed the others toward the resort. 14 days, she told herself. She could do 14 days. The rooms were something else entirely. Zuri stood in the middle of hers and turned around slowly, afraid to touch anything in case it disappeared. There was a bed the size of her entire bedroom back home. White sheets so clean they seemed to glow. A ceiling fan shaped like a palm leaf spinning lazily overhead. And a window that opened directly to a view of the ocean so perfect it looked painted. The bathroom had a tub big enough to swim in. Products with names she could not pronounce. Towels are. She sat on the edge of the bed and pressed her palms flat against the mattress. This was real. She was really here. Her phone was gone. Everyone had handed theirs over at check-in. No calls, no internet, no contact with the outside world. Just the island. Just the challenge. Just the 5 of them and whatever tests were coming. She pulled out her journal, the one she had been keeping since college, and wrote one line. Day 1. I am going to remember why I came here. For Mama. For the bills. For a future that does not feel like drowning. She closed it and tucked it into the inside pocket of her bag. Dinner that first night felt like a performance everyone was rehearsing for. Private chefs moved silently around the edges of the terrace. Beckett made everyone laugh within the first 10 minutes. He had this gift for talking like everything was the setup to a joke, and the punchline was usually himself. Zuri found herself smiling despite the knot in her stomach. "So they flew me out here in a helicopter," Beckett was saying, gesturing with his fork, "and the whole time I am thinking, this is it. This is how I go. Not on the field, not doing something cool, but in a tiny flying machine over the ocean because some billionaire wanted to see if I could survive on an island." "You played football?" Tianyu asked. "Played is generous. Warmed benches professionally for 3 seasons. Had one great year. Blew out my knee. Now I do motivational speaking at high schools where the kids are too polite to tell me they have never heard of me." Sloane sipped her wine. "What do you speak about?" "Perseverance. Resilience. The importance of never giving up." He grinned. "All stuff I am clearly excellent at, as evidenced by the fact that I am here competing for an island because my life choices have been questionable at best." Ari almost smiled. Almost. Sloane dominated the conversation without ever raising her voice. She just asked questions. Careful, precise questions. About backgrounds. About motivations. About what everyone planned to do with the island if they won. Zuri noticed how Sloane filed away every answer like she was building a spreadsheet in her head. And you? Sloane turned to Zuri eventually. What brings a teacher to a competition like this? Zuri hesitated. My family needs help, she said simply. Medical bills. Rent. Things that do not go away just because you work hard. Noble, Sloane said. It was not clear if she meant it as a compliment. Practical, Zuri corrected. I am not here to be noble. I am here because this is the only option I have left that might actually change something. Sloane studied her for a moment, then moved on to Tianyu. Later, walking back to her room along the lantern-lit path, Ari fell into step beside Zuri. What do you actually want with it? Ari asked. The island. If you won. Zuri thought about it. Security, she said honestly. A life where I am not scared every time the phone rings. Ari nodded slowly. Me too. They walked in silence for a moment. What happened to you? Zuri asked. If you do not mind me asking. Built a company from nothing, Ari said. Natural hair care products. Had it for 4 years. Then my business partner cleaned out the accounts and disappeared. Lost everything in about 72 hours. I am sorry. Do not be sorry. Be warned. Ari looked at her. People take things. That is what people do. The trick is figuring out who is going to take from you before they get the chance. She walked ahead toward her room, leaving Zuri standing alone on the path. Somewhere in the interior of the island, behind a door designed to look like a wall, Han Seo-jun sat in a leather chair facing a bank of 22 screens. Every common area. Every path. Every beach. Every terrace. Not the private rooms, because even he had limits. But everywhere else. He was 24 years old and already tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. He had built things. Earned things. Been told so many times that he was extraordinary that the word had lost all meaning. He had stood in rooms full of people who wanted something from him and felt completely alone the entire time. The last person he trusted completely had cost him more than money. His business partner. His friend. The person he had believed in so deeply that he had not seen the betrayal coming until it was already done. The company restructuring. The stolen clients. The public humiliation that followed. He had rebuilt. Of course he had rebuilt. That was what people like him did. But something inside him had stopped working properly after that. He no longer believed people were good when no one was watching. He believed people performed goodness when there was something to gain and showed their true selves only in the dark. So he made a rule. He would observe. He would study. He would not be fooled again. He poured himself a glass of water and watched the dinner footage from camera 4. His eyes moved from face to face. Sloane. Smart. Sharp. Already positioning herself. She would be efficient. She would also be ruthless when it mattered. Beckett. Charming. Too charming. Using humor as a wall. Something underneath that he was not showing. Ari. Guarded. Defensive. Had been hurt before and had decided to hurt back first next time. Tianyu. Still. Calm. Hard to read. Possibly the most dangerous one because of how little he revealed. And then there was Zuri. She had laughed at Beckett's joke. A real laugh, full and unguarded. Then immediately looked a little guilty about it, like she was not sure she was allowed to enjoy herself yet. She had answered Sloane's question about why she was here without trying to make herself sound impressive. Just the truth. Flat and honest. She had asked Ari a personal question on the path, then listened without interrupting or offering advice. Han Seo-jun watched her disappear into a room on camera 7. He told himself she was probably performing too. Everyone performed. That was the whole point of this experiment. But he pulled up the footage of her laughing at dinner and watched it one more time. Something about the way her face changed when she forgot to be careful. He shook his head and switched to a different camera. Day 2 began with a message over the speakers. Good morning, contestants. Your first challenge will begin in 1 hour. Please report to the main terrace. Zuri was already awake. She had not slept well. The bed was too soft, which seemed like a ridiculous complaint, but her body did not know what to do with that much comfort. She kept waking up convinced something was wrong. She dressed in simple clothes, practical shoes, pulled her hair back. No makeup because she had not brought any. The others were already on the terrace when she arrived. The first challenge was explained by a staff member holding a tablet. You will navigate a trail through the jungle interior of the island. Along the route, you will find 3 markers. Retrieve them and return here. Fastest time wins a significant advantage in the competition. Any questions? Sloane asked about the terrain. Beckett asked about snakes. Ari asked about the definition of significant advantage. Tianyu said nothing. Zuri did not ask anything. They started one at a time, 5 minutes apart. Sloane went first and returned fastest, barely breathing hard, all 3 markers in hand. Beckett came second, laughing about how he almost fell in a creek. Tianyu came third, calm and efficient as always. Ari came fourth, pushing hard, angry at herself for not being faster. Zuri came last. She had twisted her ankle on a root in the second half of the trail. Not badly enough to stop, but badly enough to slow her down significantly. She had considered calling for help. Instead, she wrapped her hand around the nearest tree, steadied herself, and kept going. She limped across the finish line with all 3 markers and did not say a word about her ankle. No one asked if she was okay. She rewrapped her ankle that evening with the first aid kit from her room and wrote in her journal. Day 2. Came in last. Ankle is sore, but I can walk on it. Sloane got the advantage. No one noticed I was hurt. That is fine. I did not come here to be looked after. I came here to win. Sloane's advantage was a private dinner option. A staff member came to her room that evening and explained the terms quietly. She could have the private chef prepare a special meal just for her. She would eat alone. She would gain 3 additional points on the scoreboard. Or she could share the meal with everyone and gain nothing. Sloane did not hesitate. Private, she said. Later, she told the others that the judging panel had decided to give her a separate meal as a reward. She said it casually, like it was boring administrative information. No one questioned it. Except Zuri. Zuri had been walking past the kitchen corridor at the wrong time. She saw the chef carrying a covered tray toward Sloane's wing. She heard Sloane tell Beckett that the judges made the call. She said nothing. Not because she was afraid of Sloane. Not because she was avoiding conflict. Because she wanted to understand how Sloane operated before deciding what to do with that information. She was not naive. She had grown up watching her mother navigate systems designed to push people like them down. She knew how to wait. She knew how to watch. She just did not know yet if it would matter. In the control room, Han Seo-jun watched the kitchen corridor footage. He saw Zuri pause. He saw her eyes follow the tray. He saw her face change slightly when she heard Sloane's lie. And then he saw her keep walking. He waited for her to tell someone. To confront Sloane. To use the information as leverage. She did not. She went back to her room and wrote in her journal for 10 minutes, then turned off the light and went to sleep. He did not know what to make of her. Everyone else was behaving exactly as he expected. Sloane was accumulating advantages through strategy. Beckett was charming his way through everything. Ari was watching everyone with suspicion. Tianyu was keeping his head down and playing the long game. But Zuri kept doing things that did not fit his models. She had come in last in the challenge and said nothing about being injured. She had witnessed Sloane's lie and kept it to herself. She had asked Ari a genuine question about her life and actually listened to the answer. Han Seo-jun pulled up her application file and read it again. Elementary school teacher. 23 years old. Family in financial trouble. No scandals. No connections. Nothing that explained why she kept surprising him. He closed the file and went back to watching the screens. Day 4 changed the rules. They woke up to locked kitchens, missing supplies, and a message over the speakers. Anyone can be generous when they have plenty. Let us see who you become when there is not enough. The luxury disappeared overnight. No private chefs. No elaborate meals. No unlimited resources. Instead, a supply room with 5 water bottles, 3 protein bars, 2 mangoes, a bag of crackers, and 1 first aid kit. 2 days' worth of supplies. Maybe 3 if they were careful. The 5 of them stood in the supply room and looked at each other. Sloane moved to the shelf first. We need a system, she said. Someone should manage distribution to make sure we do not run out. You volunteering yourself? Ari asked. I am the most qualified. Qualified how? I run a real estate development company. I manage resources professionally. You manage other people's resources, Ari said, which is different from sharing. Do you have a better suggestion? Yes. We split everything evenly right now and each person manages their own share. Sloane shook her head. That is inefficient. Some people have higher caloric needs. Higher caloric needs, Beckett said. Is that a fancy way of saying you want more food? I burned more calories in yesterday's challenge than anyone except Tianyu. That is just math. Math, Ari repeated. Right. Tianyu stepped forward quietly and began counting the supplies. 3 bars. 2 mangoes. 5 bottles. 5 people. If we split evenly, that is not quite 1 bar per person. We would need to share. Or some people could go without, Sloane said. The room went quiet. Zuri spoke for the first time. We split it evenly. Right now. And we figure out how to get through 2 days without turning on each other. And who decided you get a vote? Sloane asked. The same person who decided you do, Zuri said. Nobody. We are all just here. We either figure this out together or we fail together. Sloane stared at her. Zuri did not look away. After a long moment, Sloane stepped back from the shelf. They divided the supplies evenly. That evening, Zuri sat alone on the small terrace outside her room, watching the sun go down over the water. Her portion of the supplies sat on the table beside her. She had eaten half the crackers and saved the rest. Her ankle still hurt. She was more tired than she wanted to admit. And she kept thinking about her students, wondering who was covering her class, wondering if they missed her. She heard footsteps and looked up to see Ari approaching. Mind if I sit? Go ahead. Ari sat down across from her. Her protein bar wrapper was on the table in front of her, empty. You handled that well today, Ari said. With Sloane. I did not handle anything. I just said what I thought. That is handling it. Most people would have backed down. Zuri shrugged. I have dealt with Sloanes my whole life. They are not as scary as they want you to think. Ari almost smiled. You sound like my grandmother. Smart woman. The smartest. She raised me after my parents passed. Taught me everything I know about not letting people push you around. Ari paused. Also everything I know about pushing back too hard and losing things you wanted to keep. Zuri was quiet for a moment. Is that what happened with your business partner? Ari's face tightened. I trusted her. That is what happened. I let my guard down because I thought we wanted the same things. And then one morning I woke up and everything was gone. That was not your fault. It was my fault for believing her. No, Zuri said. It was her fault for betraying you. Those are not the same thing. Ari looked at her for a long moment. Then she looked away, out at the water. You really believe that? I have to, Zuri said. Because if I stop believing people can be trusted, then I do not know who I am anymore. They sat in silence as the sun finished setting. Later that night, Zuri noticed that Ari had barely touched her remaining supplies. She was sitting alone near the window in the common area, staring at nothing, the rest of her food still wrapped on the table beside her. Zuri knew that look. It was the look of someone who had gone without enough times that accepting things felt dangerous. Like the moment you let yourself need something was the moment it would be taken away. She waited until the common room was empty except for the 2 of them. Then she walked over and quietly slid her own crackers across the table. Ari looked at the crackers. Then she looked at Zuri. I am not that hungry, Zuri said. That is a lie. Maybe. But you need them more than I do. How do you know what I need? Because I recognize the way you are looking at that food, Zuri said. Like it might disappear if you reach for it. Ari was very still. I have been that hungry before, Zuri said. When I was 14 and my father left and my mother worked 3 jobs and sometimes there was not enough. I remember what it felt like to be scared of needing something. Ari did not say anything. Just eat them, Zuri said. No strings. No debt. Just crackers. She walked away before Ari could argue. In the control room, Han Seo-jun watched the footage 3 times. The first time, he thought Zuri must have known the cameras were there. She must have been performing for an audience, building goodwill for later. But she had looked around before she moved. Not looking for cameras. Looking to make sure no one else was watching. She had given away her food specifically because she did not want anyone to see her do it. Han Seo-jun leaned back in his chair and pressed his fingers against his forehead. This was not how people behaved. People were strategic. People were selfish. People performed kindness when there was something to gain and revealed their true nature when they thought they were alone. That was the entire premise of this experiment. But Zuri kept breaking the pattern. He pulled up her file again, read through her application essay, studied her photograph. She looked tired in the picture. Not glamorous tired, not artfully exhausted. Just genuinely worn down in the way people look when they have been carrying too much for too long. He closed the file. He told himself to stop focusing on one contestant. He went back to watching all the screens. But his eyes kept drifting back to camera 12, where Zuri was now sitting alone on her terrace, writing in her journal by lamplight. Day 5 brought the sabotage. The generator failed at 3 in the morning. Zuri woke to a sound she could not identify. A low mechanical hum that stopped suddenly, followed by silence so complete it felt like pressure against her ears. By morning, the failure was obvious. Power was out across the common areas. The backup systems had kicked in for essential functions, but the main generator was damaged. The staff member who addressed them looked concerned in a way that did not seem rehearsed. The generator failure is being investigated, she said. For now, challenges will continue as scheduled, but some resources may be limited. Zuri noticed Beckett looking at the ground during the announcement. His jaw was tight. His usual easy smile was nowhere to be seen. She filed that away and said nothing. Day 6. Medical supplies went missing. Not all of them. Just the antibiotics and the burn treatment kit. Which mattered because Tianyu had burned 2 fingers on a hot pipe during the morning's survival challenge and needed treatment. He wrapped his hand in a wet cloth and said he was fine. Zuri found the first aid kit in the storage room, saw what was gone, and felt something cold settle in her stomach. This was not an accident. Someone was taking things. She asked Beckett quietly if he had moved anything from the supply room. He laughed and said no, but his laugh was wrong. Too quick. Too loud. She asked Dari, who said no and looked genuinely confused. She did not ask Sloane. That night, she wrote in her journal. Day 6. Someone is taking things. I do not know who yet. I do not want to accuse anyone without proof. But I am paying attention. Day 7 started like a blow to the chest. Zuri came out to the main terrace for the morning briefing and stopped walking. Her journal was sitting on the ledge of the damaged generator control box. The journal that had been in her room. In her bag. In the inside pocket where she always kept it. She crossed the terrace and picked it up with both hands, her heart pounding. The others were already standing there. All 4 of them. Staring at her. Is that yours? Sloane asked. Zuri's voice came out steadier than she felt. Yes. Found right next to the damaged generator, Sloane said. That is an interesting location for a personal diary. I did not put it there. Beckett was looking at the ground again. He would not meet her eyes. Ari looked conflicted, like she was fighting something internally. Tianyu studied Zuri's face with an expression she could not read. I did not put it there, Zuri said again. The speakers crackled. A voice, smooth and completely without warmth, said, Zuri Ellison, please report to the evaluation room. Her stomach dropped. She walked there alone, carrying her journal against her chest like a shield. The evaluation room was small and spare. 1 chair, 1 camera, 1 wall screen showing nothing but gray. A voice came through the walls. The same flat, mechanical voice from the speakers. Your personal item was found at the site of significant property damage. Can you explain how it got there? No, she said. Because I did not put it there. Someone took it from my room and planted it. That is a serious accusation. Being framed for sabotage is also serious. Silence. You have the lowest performance score of the 5 contestants. You have now been implicated in damage to this facility. These are concerning circumstances. I understand how it looks, she said. But I am telling you the truth. I did not do this. More silence. Long enough to hurt. Then, pack your bags, Zuri Ellison. You will be advised of the next steps within the hour. She walked back to her room with her back straight and her face arranged into something that was not quite calm but was trying to be. She would not let them see her fall apart. She sat on the edge of her bed and held her journal against her chest and finally let herself breathe. She thought about her students, the ones who got blamed for things they did not do, the ones who had no one to speak up for them. She thought about all the times she had stepped between a child and an unfair punishment. No one was stepping in for her now. She opened her journal and wrote. Day 7. I am being sent home for something I did not do. If this is how it ends, then at least I know I told the truth. That has to be enough. In the control room, Han Seo-jun had not slept in 36 hours. He had been watching the footage on a loop. The generator area, the path to Zuri's room, the interior hallway cameras. Someone had gone to her room during the night. Someone had taken the journal. But the footage from the 20-minute window when it happened was corrupted. Not glitchy. Not accidentally damaged. Corrupted in the specific, surgical way that only happened when someone knew exactly what they were doing with the recording system. That meant it was not just a contestant. Someone with access to the technical infrastructure had helped. Han Seo-jun stood up from his chair. He pressed the intercom button. Do not process the elimination order. Not yet. Then he sat back down and started pulling staff access logs. The search took 6 more hours. A staff member named Cole Draymond had accessed the camera system twice in 2 days using credentials that belonged to a technical supervisor who had not been on the island in almost a week. Cole's phone records from before the competition started showed 3 calls to a number registered to Halcyon Development Group. Han Seo-jun knew that name. Halcyon had been trying to buy Callaway Island for 18 months. They wanted to turn it into a casino resort. For 100 new structures. Private airstrip. Every existing home and fishing cottage in the surrounding area demolished. His mother had turned them down twice before she died. Han Seo-jun leaned back in his chair and looked at the ceiling. Someone inside his own organization was working against him. He pulled up Beckett's file next. Not the public one. The deep background research his team had compiled before the competition. Debt. Significant debt. To collectors connected to shell companies connected to Halcyon. Han Seo-jun closed the file. He understood now. Beckett was being used. Not as the mastermind. As the tool. But the question remained, was Beckett working willingly, or was he being pressured? And more importantly, how much damage had already been done? He pulled up the camera showing Zuri's room. She was still sitting on her bed. Still holding her journal. Still not packing. He had almost sent her home. He had almost removed the one person in this competition who had done nothing wrong. Han Seo-jun picked up his phone and sent a message to his head of security. Then he turned back to the screens and watched. The morning of day 8 started differently. Instead of an elimination announcement, there was a knock at every contestant's door. A staff member handed each of them a single card. The card read, "The evaluation of contestant Zuri Ellison has been suspended pending review. No eliminations have occurred. The challenge continues." Sloane read hers twice, her expression impossible to interpret. Beckett exhaled slowly and sat down on the edge of his bed. Ari made a small sound and closed her eyes. Tianyu folded the card and put it in his pocket without reaction. Zuri sat in her room still holding hers when Ari knocked and came in without waiting. "You're staying," Ari said. "I see that." "Good." Ari sat on the edge of the bed beside her. "Because I was about to start asking some very loud questions that I do not think the people running this thing would have enjoyed." Zuri laughed. A small one, but real. "I did not do it," Zuri said. "I know." Ari's voice was firm. "I believed you. I should have said that out loud yesterday instead of standing there like everyone else. I am sorry. Why didn't you?" Ari was quiet for a moment. "Because I was thinking about my own position. How it would look if I defended you and you turned out to be guilty. What it would cost me." She straightened. "And that was wrong. It will not happen again." Zuri looked at her. "I gave you crackers and you were ready to go to war for me? You gave me crackers when you thought no one was watching," Ari said. "That is different. That is real." Day 9 brought storms. Not the dramatic kind that arrive with warning and fanfare. The slow kind that settle over the island like a weight, pressing the sky down and turning the water from turquoise to gray. The official challenge was canceled. The 5 contestants gathered in the common room and waited. Beckett was quieter than usual. He sat in the corner nursing a cup of cold coffee and did not make jokes. Zuri watched him. Around midday, she walked over and sat down across from him. You look like you have something to say, she said. He did not meet her eyes. Maybe. I am listening. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I did not plant your journal. I know. He looked up surprised. You know? I know you did not plant it. But I also know you know something about what happened. He stared at her. You have been avoiding eye contact with me since day 5, she said. You flinch every time someone mentions the generator. You laugh at the wrong times, which you did not do at the beginning. You noticed all that? I am a teacher. I spend my life watching people who are not saying what they're actually thinking. Beckett looked at his hands. I made a deal, he said quietly. Before I came here, someone contacted me. Said they could clear my debt if I helped make sure Sloan won. Zuri did not move. The debt is bad, Beckett continued. Really bad. I have spent years pretending I was still successful when everything was falling apart. The speaking gigs dried up. The endorsements disappeared. The money went to keeping up appearances until there was nothing left to keep up. And they promised to make it go away. Yes. If you did what? Small things. At first. Move a challenge marker to slow Tianyu down. Plant a suggestion about Ari's reliability during a group discussion. Keep Sloan on track without making it obvious. Small things, Zuri repeated. Yes. He finally looked at her. But then you got framed. And I knew you did not do it. And I knew I was part of the reason everything was going wrong. You did not take the journal. No, that was not me. But I am connected to the people who did. Zuri was quiet for a moment. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you gave away your food when no one was watching, he said. Because you came in last in the trail challenge with a sprained ankle and did not say a word about it. Because you are the only person here who has been exactly who she seems to be, and I have been lying since the day I arrived. I am tired of being this version of myself, he said. I do not like him very much. Zuri reached over and pulled his hands down gently. Then stop being him, she said. How? Tell the truth. To everyone. Right now. He looked terrified. I will walk back out there with you, she said. He stared at her. Why would you do that? After everything. Because I believe people can change, she said. And because you just proved I was right. Beckett stood in the common room and told them everything. He did not make jokes. He did not try to soften it. He said what he had done and why he had done it and what he was connected to. The debt. The company. The small sabotages. The things he had done and the things he had not done. When he finished, the room was very quiet. Sloan said nothing. Her face was unreadable. Ari sat very still, processing. Tianyu watched Beckett for a long time, then nodded slowly. So someone on the staff is working with this company, Ari said finally. Yes. And you have been helping them from inside the competition. Yes. And Zuri almost went home because of it. Yes. Ari stood up and walked to Beckett. If you had not confessed, she said, you would have walked out of here with your debt cleared and the rest of us would never have known. Yes. So why did you tell us? Beckett was quiet. Then he said, because I am tired of being someone I would not want to know. Ari looked at him for a long moment. Then she walked back to her seat. Okay, she said. So what do we do now? What they did was this. Zuri went to the evaluation room alone and asked to speak to whoever was listening. I know you can hear me, she said to the camera. I know you have been watching everything. I do not know if you already know what Beckett just told us, but I am telling you anyway. Because that is the only way I know how to do things. She laid it out. Everything. The company. The staff member. The sabotage. I do not know if this breaks the competition rules, she said. I do not know what happens next. But I am not going to sit on information while someone who had nothing to do with this takes the blame. She stood up and walked out. In the control room, Han Seo-jun watched her leave the evaluation room. He already had the full picture. He had already removed Cole Draymond from the property. He had already sent the evidence to his legal team. What he had not known was whether the contestants would figure it out, whether they would tell each other, whether anyone would choose honesty over advantage. Zuri had. Beckett had, eventually. The others had listened instead of turning on each other. He thought about his mother's letter, folded in his desk drawer. If you ever stop trusting people, find someone who still knows how to care when no reward is promised. He pulled out the letter and read it again. Then he made a decision. The remaining days shifted. The challenges continued, but something in the atmosphere had changed. There was less performance, less strategy, more actual conversation. On day 10, Sloane found the old groundskeeper. His name was Elwood. He had worked on the island for 30 years. He was repairing a stone wall when Sloane walked past, and something made her stop. "You are one of the contestants," he said without looking up. "Yes." "Which one?" "The one who is going to win." He smiled at that. The kind of smile that said he had heard similar things before. "This island has history," he said, fitting a stone back into place. The Calloway family owned it for 80 years. His mother used to sit on the North Beach every morning. Just her and the water. She called it her thinking place. Sloane looked out at the beach. She passed away? 3 years ago. He pressed another stone into the wall. She had plans for this place. Real ones. Not the kind written in contracts and profit projections. What kind? The kind that include people like me. And the fishing families who have worked these waters for generations. She wanted this island to serve something bigger than one person's name. Sloane was quiet. "What happens if the wrong person wins?" she asked finally. Elwood straightened slowly. "Then we find out what they're really made of." He walked back toward the gardening shed, leaving Sloane standing alone, looking at the water. That night, Sloane made a phone call. The competition rules said no phones. But there was an emergency line for true emergencies. Sloane found a way to access it. She called Halcyon Development Group. She told them she was out. Whatever deal they thought they had with her, whatever connections they had been hoping to leverage, it was done. She would not be helping them acquire Calloway Island. She would not be facilitating the casino resort. She was finished. The person on the other end was not pleased. Sloane hung up anyway. Then she went back to her room and sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, thinking about what she was willing to become for a win and what she was not. Day 11 brought the storm that had been building. It came fast. Heavy rain. Wind that bent the palm trees sideways. Sky the color of wet concrete. The final challenge was canceled. Everyone was told to return to the main house and stay inside. Zuri stood at the window watching the tree line. That was when she saw the smoke. Thin at first. Threading up from the direction of the caretaker cabin on the southeast edge of the property. Then thicker. "There is smoke near the caretaker cabin," she said. Tianyu was at the window in seconds. "Elwood," Sloane said quietly. "He could be trapped," Tianyu said. Beckett looked at the door. "Someone should get the staff." "The main team is on the north end," Sloane said. "They might not know yet." Everyone stood looking at the smoke. Zuri thought about it for exactly 1 second. Then she opened the door and ran into the storm. She heard Tianyu behind her almost immediately. The rain hit her like a wall. The wind came from every direction at once. She could not see more than 30 meters ahead. She followed the smoke. Her shoes filled with water. Her clothes were soaked through in seconds. She kept running. The cabin came into view through the gray rain. Smoke was pouring from under the door and out one of the side windows. Not full flames yet, but close. She hit the door with both hands. "Elwood, can you hear me?" Nothing. Tianyu reached her and pressed the back of his hand against the door to check the temperature. Then he pushed it open with his shoulder. They went in low. The smoke was thick and acrid. Tianyu got to him first. He pulled Elwood up by the arm and got him moving toward the door. Zuri grabbed the blanket from the cot and beat at the flames until they died down to embers. Then they all three came out into the rain. Elwood sat on the wet grass, coughing hard. Zuri crouched beside him, one hand on his back. "You are okay," she said. "You are out. Just breathe." He coughed for another full minute before he could speak. "You ran out in this," he said. "In this storm." "Yes. You could have waited for help." "No," Zuri said. "I really could not." Tianyu knelt on Elwood's other side, checking his hands and face for burns. "Nothing serious," he said. "But he needs to get inside and warm up." They helped him to his feet. And that was when Zuri saw him. Han Seo-jun standing at the edge of the path. Soaking wet. Breathing hard. Like he had been running. She had never seen him in person before. He was younger than she expected. Sharper features. Eyes that looked like they had not slept in days. He crossed the distance between them and took Elwood's other arm. "June," Elwood said, looking up at him. I did not know you were here. I have been here the whole time, Han Seo-jun said. His voice was different than the flat tone that had come through the speakers. It was human, worried, real. Zuri looked at him. He looked back. The rain came down between them. Neither of them moved for one long moment. Then Elwood coughed again, and they started walking. Inside the main house, with Elwood wrapped in blankets and warming up near the large fireplace, the 5 contestants stood in the same room as Han Seo-jun for the first time. Sloan was the first to speak. You have been on the island this whole time. Yes, he said. Watching us. Yes. From where? A control room in the interior of the main building. 22 cameras. Every common area. Every path. Sloan absorbed that. How much did you see? Everything, Han Seo-jun said. That was the point. Beckett sat down heavily on the nearest chair. So when I confessed to the others yesterday, I already knew most of it. What I did not know was whether you would tell them. That part mattered. Beckett looked at his hands. Ari stood with her arms crossed. And the sabotage? The person on your staff. Cole Draymond. Removed 2 nights ago. He was placed here by Halcyon Development Group. Han Seo-jun paused. I should have caught it sooner. That failure is mine. The room was quiet. Tianyu said nothing. He was watching Han Seo-jun with the same calm, assessing gaze he used for everyone. Then Zuri spoke. Is the competition still happening? Han Seo-jun looked at her. Yes. So what happens now? 3 more days of challenges. Then the final evaluation. He paused. But you all deserve an explanation before we continue. He sat down at the long table in the center of the room. Slowly, the others sat too. He told them. Everything. The control room. The hidden cameras. The 2 scoring systems running parallel. The visible one that tracked challenge performance. The hidden one that tracked something else entirely. The visible challenges were never the real test, he said. Anyone can perform well when they know they are being watched. The real test was what you did when you thought no one important was paying attention. Sloane's jaw tightened. Beckett stared at the table. Ari's expression flickered with something that might have been understanding. Tianyu nodded slowly. And Zuri just listened. Why? She asked when he finished. Why go to all this trouble? Han Seo-jun was quiet for a moment. My mother owned this island, he said. She had a vision for it. Not a business plan. A real vision. A place that could help people. A retreat for families, for children, for anyone who needed somewhere to land and put themselves back together. He paused. Before she died, she wrote me a letter. She knew I had stopped trusting people after what happened with my business partner. She knew I was becoming someone who only saw angles and strategies in everyone I met. He looked at the table. The letter said, if you ever stop trusting people, find someone who still knows how to care when no reward is promised. No one spoke. That is what I was looking for, he said. Someone who would prove her right. The final 3 days moved differently. There was still structure. Still challenges. Still a scoreboard. But the energy had shifted. People talked more honestly. Strategized less desperately. On day 12, Sloan spent an hour with Elwood on the covered terrace, listening to him talk about the island's history. About the Calloway family. About Han Seo-jun's mother and what she had dreamed for this place. She took notes. Not business notes. Real notes. The kind you write when you are trying to understand something that matters. Beckett helped Tianyu repair the fire damage to Elwood's cabin. He did not make a single joke the entire time. Ari started talking more openly about her business. What she had learned from building it. What she had learned from losing it. What she would do differently if she ever got another chance. Tianyu trained 2 of the staff members on emergency response procedures, calm and methodical and utterly confident. And Zuri continued being exactly who she had been from the beginning. She helped where she could. Said what she thought. Did not perform. On the morning of day 13, Zuri found Han Seo-jun standing alone on the North Beach. She had woken early. Could not sleep. Too much in her head. She walked to the beach because the water usually helped quiet her thoughts. She was not expecting to find him there. She almost turned around. She did not. She walked to where he was standing and stopped about 3 feet away, looking at the same water. You could not sleep either, she asked. No. How long have you been out here? An hour. Maybe more. She nodded. They stood in silence for a while. What did you see? She asked finally. When you were watching me. He did not answer right away. I saw someone who came in last on a challenge and did not mention she was injured, he said. I saw someone give away food when she thought no one was looking. I saw someone get framed for sabotage and refuse to throw anyone else under the bus to save herself. Zuri was quiet. I saw someone convince Beckett to tell the truth, he continued, and then walk into an evaluation room and tell that truth to me directly, even though she did not know who was listening or what it would cost her. I was just doing what made sense. That is exactly the point. He turned to look at her. Everyone else was calculating. You were just being yourself. Maybe I was calculating too, she said. Maybe I was just better at hiding it. No. His voice was certain. I watched you for 13 days through 22 cameras. You were not calculating. You were just honest. Zuri looked at the water. My mother would have liked you, he said quietly. Something in his voice made her turn to look at him. His face was different now than it had been in the common room. Softer. More uncertain. Like he was not sure he was allowed to say what he had just said. I do not know what happens after the competition ends, she said. But I know that whatever you decide, I am going to be okay. I survived 23 years before this island. I will survive whatever comes next. What if what comes next is good? She smiled slightly. Then I will learn to survive that too. He almost smiled back. They stood there as the sun rose higher. Neither of them suggested going back inside. That evening, Han Seo-jun found Zuri in the small library off the main corridor. She was reading one of the old books from the shelves, her feet tucked under her on the leather chair. He knocked on the door frame. She looked up. Can I join you? He asked. She gestured to the chair across from her. He sat down. For a while, neither of them said anything. Zuri went back to her book. Han Seo-jun watched the rain that had started falling against the windows. Tell me about your students, he said eventually. She looked up surprised. My students. You mentioned them once at dinner the first night. But you stopped yourself. She closed the book slowly. I teach 3rd grade, she said. 24 kids. Most of them come from families like mine. Working parents. Not enough money. Not enough time. Not enough anything, really. Do you like it? Like is not the right word. She thought about it. It is more like it is the only thing that makes sense. When I am in that classroom, I know exactly who I am and what I am supposed to do. Everything else in my life might be falling apart, but in that room, I am good at what I do. He nodded. What about you? She asked. When was the last time you knew exactly who you were supposed to be? The question caught him off guard. He sat with it for a long moment. Before my mother died, he said finally. When she was alive, I felt like I had a compass. Something pointing me in a direction. After she was gone. He shook his head. I kept building things. Kept succeeding at things. But I did not know why anymore. And this competition? It was supposed to help me find someone I could trust. To carry forward what she wanted for this place. Did it work? He looked at her. Yes, he said. I think it did. Day 14. The final morning. The 5 contestants gathered on the main terrace. Sun shining. Ocean turquoise. Breeze coming soft from the south. Han Seo-jun stood in front of them. The visible scoreboard shows Sloane in 1st place. Ari in 2nd. Tianyu 3rd. Beckett 4th. Zuri in last. No one looked surprised. That scoreboard measured performance in structured challenges, he continued. But there was a second system. One that measured what you did when the structured parts were over. He pulled a small card from his pocket but did not read from it. On that system, Zuri Ellison finished 1st. Zuri did not move. You gave away resources when no one was watching, Han Seo-jun said. You told the truth when it could have cost you everything. You ran toward a fire in a storm without waiting for anyone to tell you it was okay. You convinced someone to confess, then let him take credit for his own choice. He looked at her. You lost every visible challenge. You never stopped being exactly who you are. The terrace was silent. Zuri Ellison, Han Seo-jun said. You are the winner of the Callaway Island Challenge. The island, the trust fund, and full legal control of its future belong to you. Zuri stood slowly. She looked out at the water. She looked back at Han Seo-jun. I cannot accept it as personal property, she said. Nobody spoke. If I take this island for myself, she said, I become the same as everyone who came here thinking the point was ownership. That is not why I came here. What do you want instead? Your mother's vision, Zuri said. A retreat. For families. For children. For people who need somewhere to rest and heal and remember who they are. Not mine. Not yours. A trust that belongs to something bigger than either of us. Han Seo-jun stared at her. And the people who have been here for years, Zuri continued. Elwood and the others. They should be part of whatever this becomes. Not pushed out. Elwood made a soft sound from where he stood at the edge of the terrace. Han Seo-jun did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said, my mother would have said exactly the same thing. What happened next took 3 months. Legal structures. Trust documents. Funding arrangements. Zoning conversations. Sloan handled the legal architecture. She knew property trust law. She knew how to build something that could not be torn apart by the next developer with deep pockets. Ari built the operational systems. Budgets and staffing and schedules and all the invisible infrastructure that makes a place actually function. Tianyu established the safety protocols, emergency response, medical preparedness, all the things that let people feel protected without feeling watched. Beckett did what he was good at. He made people feel welcome. He greeted families when they arrived and made the children laugh and remembered everyone's names. And Zuri oversaw all of it, not because she wanted power, but because someone needed to hold the center. Han Seo-jun worked alongside them, not as the owner, not as the decision-maker, as a partner. He and Zuri spent hours together during those 3 months, walking the property, debating ideas, disagreeing loudly, and then finding their way back to common ground. She pushed back on him constantly. He had never had anyone push back on him like that. He found that he looked forward to their arguments almost as much as he looked forward to their quiet moments. One evening, about 2 months into the planning process, they sat together on the North Beach as the sun went down. Can I ask you something? Zuri said. Always. Why did you run out of the control room during the storm? He was quiet. When you saw the smoke, she continued. When you saw me run toward the fire, why did you leave? He looked at the water. I do not know, he said honestly. I did not decide to. I just stood up and moved. I was watching you on the screen, and then suddenly I was not. I was running. You had not left that room in 13 days. I know, but you left for me. He turned to look at her. I left because I could not watch you run into danger from behind a screen anymore, he said. I had to be where you were. I had to know you were okay. Zuri was quiet. That is when it started, he said. The storm. That is when I knew. Knew what? That this was not just about finding someone to trust with the island. He paused. It was about finding you. She did not say anything. I am not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know that trust takes time. I know that I spent 2 weeks watching you through cameras, which is not exactly a foundation for June. He stopped. I know, she said. You know what? I know that it started for you during the storm. But for me, it started earlier. He stared at her. When I was sitting in that evaluation room, she said. When I thought I was about to be sent home for something I did not do. I was angry at whoever was listening. But I was also hoping that whoever it was would see the truth. She looked at him. I was hoping you would see me, she said. I did not know it was you specifically. But I was hoping whoever was behind the voice would understand. I did, he said. I saw you. I know. She smiled slightly. That is why I am still here. The retreat opened 6 months after the competition ended. They called it the Callaway Retreat. Simple, honest, connected to the history of the place. The first guests were 17 children from an after-school program in Atlanta. They arrived by ferry because Zuri insisted that arriving gently mattered. Elwood met them at the dock. He had a way of making everyone feel like they belonged there. Ari had the schedule running smoothly before the first child stepped off the boat. Sloan had protected the entire structure legally. Nothing could touch it. Tianyu had the safety systems in place, visible enough to reassure, but not so present that they changed the feeling. Beckett stood on the welcome terrace and told a terrible joke, and the kids laughed anyway, which was all he needed. And Zuri stood in the middle of all of it, watching the children explore the beach for the first time. Han Seo-jun came to stand beside her. You did this, he said. We did this, she corrected. No. He shook his head. I built a competition. I watched from behind screens. You are the one who actually made it real. She looked at him. You came out from behind the screens, she said. That matters too. He smiled. It was still strange to see him smile. In the control room footage she had seen later, he never smiled. Not once. But now he did. She liked being the reason. That night, after the children were settled and the staff had gone to their quarters, Zuri and Han Seo-jun walked along the beach. The moon was full. The water was silver. I have something to tell you, he said. Okay. I spent the first 13 days of the competition trying to figure out if you were performing. I know. You do. You kept pulling up my file, she said. I saw the screen logs when you gave me access to the systems. He laughed. You went through the screen logs? I wanted to understand who I was working with. And what did you conclude? That you watched my footage more than anyone else's. By a significant margin. He stopped walking. She stopped too, turning to face him. I told myself it was because you were an anomaly, he said. Because you kept doing things I did not expect. Because you broke my models. And now? Now I know it was because I could not stop thinking about you. The waves rolled in and out. When did you know? She asked. Know what? That you had feelings for me. He thought about it. The crackers, he said. When you gave Ari your crackers and looked around first to make sure no one was watching. I knew then. That early. I did not admit it to myself until the storm. But looking back, it was the crackers. She laughed softly. That is very specific. You asked. She stepped closer to him. I knew during the evaluation room, she said. When I was talking to a voice I could not see, hoping whoever was listening would understand. I did not know it was you. But I knew I wanted it to be someone worth hoping for. Am I? He asked. Someone worth hoping for? She looked at him for a long moment. You are now, she said. And then she took his hand. The months that followed were not easy. Building something real never is. There were disagreements. Arguments. Moments when Zuri wondered if she had made the right choice. But there were also quiet mornings on the beach. Late nights going over plans together. Shared meals with the team that had become something like a family. And there was Han Seo-jun. He was learning to step out from behind screens. Learning to be present instead of observing. Learning to trust someone else completely. It did not come naturally to him. But he kept trying. And Zuri kept meeting him halfway. 1 year after the retreat opened, they stood together on the North Beach at sunrise. The same spot where they had stood so many mornings before. But this morning was different. This morning, Han Seo-jun had something in his pocket. I have been thinking, he said. That sounds dangerous. He laughed. I have been thinking about what my mother wrote in her letter. About finding someone who still knows how to care when no reward is promised. What about it? She was right. She was right about everything. About this island. About what it could become. About the kind of person who should be part of it. Zuri waited. And she was right that I would know when I found that person, he said. Because I have never been more certain of anything in my life. He reached into his pocket. I am not asking you to answer right now, he said. I know you need time to think. I know this is fast. I know there are 100 reasons why you might want to wait. He pulled out a small box. But I want you to know that whenever you are ready, whether that is tomorrow or a year from now, I want to spend my life building something real with you. Not from behind screens. Not as an observer. As your partner. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple. Beautiful. A single stone the color of the ocean at sunrise. Zuri looked at the ring. She looked at him. She thought about everything that had happened. The helicopter landing. The first challenge. The sabotage. The storm. The fire. The months of work and disagreement and growth. She thought about who she was when she arrived on this island. She thought about who she had become. I do not need time to think, she said. His breath caught. Yes, she said. Yes, I want to build something real with you. Yes, I want to be your partner. Yes. He exhaled slowly. Then he took the ring from the box and slid it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. The sun came up over the water, turning everything gold. And for the first time in a very long time, both of them felt completely at home. From the Callaway Retreat's second annual report, written by Zuri. This island was built on a question. What do people do when no one important is watching? 5 years changed everything and nothing at the same time. The island still looked like something from a dream. White sand stretching in every direction. Water so clear you could count the stones at the bottom. Palm trees bending in the wind like they were whispering secrets to each other. But now there were sounds that had not been there before. A woman singing softly from the garden terrace. The steady knock of hammers from the new workshop near the East Trail, where teenagers were learning to build furniture from reclaimed wood. And the bell. Every morning at 7, a bell rang from the small tower near the welcome dock. It was not loud. It was not demanding. It was just a gentle sound that said the day had begun and everyone was invited to be part of it. Elwood rang the bell every morning. He was 73 now and moved slower than he used to. His knees complained about stairs. His hands shook a little when the cold front came through in January. But he rang that bell every single morning without fail. The day does not start right unless someone calls it in properly, he told Zuri once. Your mother-in-law taught me that. He meant Hanseo Jun's mother. He always called her that when talking to Zuri. Not Mrs. Han. Not the previous owner. Your mother-in-law. Like the connection was personal. Like it mattered. It did. Zuri stood on the north beach and watched the sunrise. She did this every morning. Same spot. Same time. Before the guests woke up. Before the schedules kicked in. Before the world started needing things from her. She was 28 now. 5 years on this island had changed her body. She was stronger. Her arms were firm from hauling supplies and building garden beds and carrying children who fell asleep during evening bonfires. Her face had laugh lines that had not been there at 23. 5 years had changed her insides too. She no longer woke up afraid of the phone ringing. Her mother's medical bills were paid. Had been paid for 4 years. Her mother lived in a small house near the Georgia coast, close enough to visit. Her younger brother had finished college last spring with a degree in environmental science. He was talking about coming to work at the retreat. Zuri did not carry the weight of her family's survival on her shoulders anymore. She carried other things now. The retreat. The guests. The partnerships. The 1,000 small decisions that kept a place like this running. But those things did not crush her. Those things gave her purpose. She heard footsteps on the sand behind her and smiled before she turned around. You were up early, she said. Hanseo Jun walked barefoot across the sand. He was wearing a plain white shirt and shorts. No shoes. No watch. His hair was longer than it used to be. Less styled. More real. Could not sleep, he said. Nervous? A little. She looked at him sideways. Hanseo Jun, Billionaire technology founder, nervous about a party? It is not a party. It is a reunion. That is worse. She laughed. Today was the 5-year anniversary of the retreat's opening. All 5 original contestants were coming back. Some with stories that had changed completely since the last time they stood on this island. They are going to be different, Zuri said. Everyone is different after 5 years. Are we? He looked at her. Yes, he said. We are better. They watched the sun finish rising. The first ferry arrived at 10 in the morning. Beckett stepped off the boat and immediately dropped to his knees on the dock, arms spread wide, grinning up at the sky. I have missed this island more than I miss carbs, he announced to no one in particular. He was different. The expensive watch was gone. The designer clothes were gone. The performing for the crowd energy was quieter now, still there but tempered by something steadier underneath. He had spent the first year after the competition in a small apartment in Ohio, working as an assistant coach at a community college. Minimum salary. No glamour. No pretending. He had paid off his debt honestly. It took 3 years. He worked 2 jobs for most of that time. He did not complain about it publicly. He did not turn it into a motivational speech. He just did it. Now he ran a youth sports program in Cleveland that served kids from neighborhoods where organized athletics did not exist. 240 kids in the program. A waiting list of another 100. He never talked about his football career anymore. He talked about his kids. Behind him on the ferry, a woman stepped off carefully. This is my wife, Lena, Beckett said. Thank you, he said to Zuri as they walked up the path. For what? For making me tell the truth 5 years ago. I would not have any of this if you had not. Zuri shook her head. You told the truth yourself. I just walked with you. That was the part that mattered. Sloane arrived on the second ferry. She looked exactly the same and completely different at the same time. Same sharp posture. Same direct gaze. Same energy that said she was the most competent person in any room she entered. but something had softened around the edges. She stepped off the boat carrying a leather portfolio and wearing clothes that cost less than her old handbags used to. "The dock looks different," she said, scanning the property with professional eyes. "We rebuilt it last year," Zuri said. "The old one was not accessible enough." Sloan nodded approvingly. "Good structure. Clean lines. Who did the engineering?" "Tianyu's team." Of course they did. Sloan had not gone back to her old company after the competition. She had tried. She had sat in her corner office on the 42nd floor and looked at the development plans on her desk and felt something she had never felt before in her professional life. Disgust. Not at the work itself, at what the work served. She had resigned within 6 months. It had not been dramatic. No press conference. No public statement. She just called her business partner, explained that she was leaving, and walked out of the building with one box of personal items. For a year, she did not know what she was. That was the hardest part. Sloan had always known what she was. Smart. Driven. Successful. Without the company, without the title, she had to figure out who she was underneath all of that. It took time. Eventually, she started a legal nonprofit focused on protecting coastal communities from predatory development. The same kind of development she used to do. She was brilliant at it. She understood how developers thought because she had been one. She knew their playbooks. She knew their loopholes. She knew exactly where to apply pressure. In 5 years, her organization had blocked 11 major development projects that would have displaced thousands of families. She never talked about redemption. She said she was just solving problems. But everyone who worked with her knew the truth. Sloan walked up the path and stopped when she saw Elwood sitting on the terrace. "Elwood," she said. He looked up and smiled. "There she is. The one who is going to win." Sloan sat down beside him. "I did not win." "You won something," he said. "Just not what you expected." She looked at the ocean and said nothing, but she sat with him for a long time. Ari arrived third. She came off the ferry carrying a large canvas bag and talking on a satellite phone, which she hung up the moment her feet hit the dock. "Sorry," she said. "Supply chain issue." Third one this month. Ari's natural hair care company was in its 4th year. Not the old one. A new one. Built from scratch with the funding Hansio June had provided after the competition. Not as a prize. As an investment. Because her business plan was solid and her vision was clear, and she deserved another chance. She had taken the money and turned it into something extraordinary. The company now employed 62 people. Products in 1,200 stores across the country. Revenue that made investors pay attention. But the thing Ari was proudest of was not the numbers. It was the fact that every single person in her supply chain was paid fairly. Every factory was inspected. Every worker was treated with dignity. "I lost everything once because someone I trusted took advantage," she told a reporter last year. "I will never build something that takes advantage of anyone else." She walked up the path and found Zuri waiting. They looked at each other. Then Ari pulled a bag of crackers out of her canvas bag and held them up. Zuri stared at them. "I have been carrying a bag of crackers to every significant event in my life for 5 years, Ari said. "Because someone once gave me hers when she thought no one was looking, and it changed my life." Zuri's eyes got bright. "Stop," she said. "Do not make me cry before lunch." "Too late," Ari said. "I am already crying." They stood on the dock and held each other and laughed about the crackers until neither of them could breathe. Tianyu arrived on the last ferry. He came alone, which was not unusual. Tianyu had always been comfortable in his own company. He stepped off the boat, adjusted the strap of his bag, and looked around at the island with eyes that took in everything. He had changed the least in obvious ways. Still calm. Still steady. Still the kind of person who made you feel like everything was going to be fine just by being in the room. But inside, something enormous had shifted. The guilt he carried when he first came to the island, the rescue he could not complete, the person he could not save, that weight had not disappeared. It never would. But he had learned to carry it differently. After the competition, he had gone back to firefighting. For 2 more years. Until the night he pulled a family of 4 out of a burning apartment building and realized that he had saved more people than he had lost. Not that it made up for anything. It did not work that way. But it meant something. He retired from active firefighting and moved to the coast. Han Seo-jun had asked him to build and lead the retreat's safety and emergency response program. He had said yes without hesitating. For 3 years now, he had lived on the island. He trained the staff. He maintained the emergency systems. By noon, all 5 of them were together again. The main terrace had been set up for the anniversary gathering. Simple decorations. Flowers from the island garden. A long table like the one from their first dinner 5 years ago. But this time there were more seats. Beckett's wife and son. Several staff members who had been with the retreat since the beginning. Elwood in his favorite chair at the head of the table. 3 families who were currently staying at the retreat as guests. And a group of children. 14 of them. Ages 7 to 12. From a community program in Mississippi that had been sending kids to the retreat for the last 2 years. They were scattered across the terrace, examining the food, poking at the flowers, asking Tianyu approximately 400 questions about the emergency boat docked near the pier. Zuri watched all of it from the doorway. Han Seo-jun came up behind her. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Full," she said. "Full of what?" "Everything." She looked at him. 5 years ago, I came here with a broken zipper on my bag and a family that was drowning. I came in last on every challenge. I got framed for sabotage. I almost got sent home. And now? She looked back at the terrace. "And now I am standing in a place that helps people," she said. Surrounded by people who became family. Married to a man who learned to stop hiding behind cameras. He put his arm around her shoulders. "You did not answer my question," he said. "What was the question?" "How do you feel?" "Grateful," she said. "And a little scared." "Scared of what?" She put her hand against her stomach. He looked down. Then he looked at her face. "Are you?" "Yes." His entire expression changed. "How long have you known?" 2 weeks. 2 weeks? You kept this for 2 weeks. I wanted to tell you today. On the anniversary. On this island. In this spot. He stared at her. "We are going to be parents," she said. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "I have never seen you speechless before. I have never been this surprised before." The man with 22 cameras is surprised? The cameras did not see this coming. She laughed harder. The afternoon unfolded like something out of a story that was too good to be true, but was happening anyway. Lunch was served family style. Big plates passed from hand to hand. No private chefs. No exclusive courses. Just good food shared openly. Beckett sat between his wife and Ari and somehow kept 3 separate conversations going. Sloane was deep in conversation with one of the guest families about their housing situation. She had her legal brain fully engaged, already making notes, already thinking about what her organization could do. Tianyu was surrounded by children who wanted to know everything about the emergency boat and whether they could ride in it and whether he had ever rescued a dolphin. "Not a dolphin," Tianyu said. "But once I rescued a very angry cat from a tree." Ari was talking to a young woman named Davina who was staying at the retreat with her 2 daughters. Davina had lost her home 8 months ago. She had found out about the retreat through a social worker who knew someone who knew Ari. "I did not think places like this existed," Davina said quietly. "They did not," Ari said. "We had to build it." "Why did you?" Ari thought about it. "Because someone once gave me crackers when she thought no one was watching," she said. "And I decided that if I ever had the chance to do something like that on a bigger scale, I would." Davina looked at her. "That is a real answer?" "That is the only answer I have," Ari said. "Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest moments." After lunch, Elwood asked if he could say something. Everyone gathered on the terrace. They pulled chairs into a loose circle. Elwood stood slowly, bracing one hand on the terrace railing. "I have worked on this island for 33 years, he said. "I was here before any of you arrived. I was here when Mrs. Han used to walk the North Beach every morning. I was here when she got sick, and I was here when she passed." He paused. "She told me once that the most important thing about a place is not what it looks like. It is how it makes people feel." He looked around at the faces in front of him. "I have watched this place change. I have watched strangers become family. I have watched children come here broken and leave standing taller. I have watched adults come here exhausted and leave breathing easier." His voice was not steady, but he kept going. "I am 73 years old. My knees hurt. My hands shake. I cannot work the way I used to. But I ring that bell every morning because this place deserves to be called into the day properly. He looked at Zuri. You asked me once why I stay, he said. I told you it was because of the history. But that was only half the truth. He straightened. I stay because of the future, he said. Because every time a child laughs on this beach, I hear Mrs. Han laughing too. And I know she is somewhere saying, that is what I wanted. That is what I always wanted. He sat down. Nobody spoke for a long time. Late in the afternoon, the 5 original contestants found themselves sitting together on the beach without planning it. The others had drifted off. The children were with the staff, making shell necklaces. The families were resting. Elwood had gone to his cottage for his afternoon nap. It was just the 5 of them. Like the first day. Except nothing was like the first day. I was scared of all of you, Beckett said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. That first dinner. 5 years ago. I was sitting there making jokes and thinking, these people are all smarter than me. They are all more deserving than me. I am going to get found out. You did get found out, Sloane said dryly. Yeah, but not the way I expected. I expected to be exposed as a fraud. Instead, I got exposed as someone who was too afraid to be honest. That is different. Is it? Ari asked. I think so. A fraud is someone pretending to be something they are not. I was pretending to not be something I actually was. And what were you? Tianyu asked. Beckett thought about it. Broke. Ashamed. Desperate. He paused. Also kind of funny. That part was real. That part was real, Zuri agreed. What about you? Beckett turned to Sloane. What were you scared of on day 1? Sloane was quiet for a moment. Not being the best, she said. I have been the best at everything I have ever done. School. Business. Strategy. I walked onto this island completely certain I was going to win because I always win. And then you lost, Ari said. I lost the competition, Sloane corrected. But I won something else. What? The knowledge that winning is not the most important thing I am capable of. She looked at the water. That was new information for me. Ari nodded slowly. What about you, Ari? Zuri asked. Ari picked up a handful of sand and let it run through her fingers. I was scared of being taken from again, she said. My business partner took everything. I came here with my fists up, ready to fight anyone who tried to take something else. You did have your fists up, Beckett said. I was genuinely concerned. Ari smiled. What I did not expect was someone giving me something instead of taking. She looked at Zuri. Crackers, she said. I really wish everyone would stop talking about the crackers, Zuri said. Never, Ari said. Those crackers are going in my memoir. Everyone laughed. Tianyu was the last to speak. I was carrying guilt, he said simply. From a rescue that went wrong. A person I could not reach in time. The laughter faded. I thought I came here to win something, Tianyu continued. I did not. I came here to prove to myself that I was still worth something after failing. You pulled Elwood out of a burning cabin, Zuri said. In a storm. That is not why I know I am worth something, Tianyu said. I know I am worth something because of what happened before the fire. The quiet days. The conversations. The way this group of strangers slowly became people I trusted. He looked around at all of them. That is what healed me, he said. Not the rescue. The trust. The waves rolled in. What about you, Zuri? Beckett asked. What were you scared of? Zuri looked at the ocean. I was scared that I was going to spend my whole life being invisible, she said. Working hard. Giving everything I had. And never being seen. She was quiet for a moment. I came here thinking the only way to be seen was to win. To compete. To prove I was better than everyone else at something. She shook her head. But that is not what happened. I came in last on every challenge. I gave away my food. I got framed. I almost went home. She looked at her friends. And I was seen anyway, she said. Not because I won. Because I refused to stop being myself. That evening, as the sun went down, the retreat held its annual bonfire on the main beach. Everyone gathered. The contestants. The families. The staff. Elwood in his chair near the warmth. The fire crackled and sent sparks up into the darkening sky. Han Seo-jun sat next to Zuri on a blanket in the sand. His hand was on her knee. She was leaning against his shoulder. I have something else to tell you, she said quietly. More news. Not news. Just something I want to say. Go ahead. She watched the fire for a moment. When I was sitting in that evaluation room on day 7, she said, being told to pack my bags, I made a promise to myself. What promise? That no matter what happened, I would not let this experience make me stop believing in people. He waited. You made me test that promise, she said. You watched me from behind screens. You let me get framed. You almost sent me home. You put me through something that could have broken my faith in everything. I know, he said quietly. I am sorry. Let me finish. You tested me. And then you let yourself be changed by what you saw. You came out of the control room. You stood in the rain. You became someone I could trust. That is the part that matters, she said. Not that you made mistakes. That you let those mistakes change you. He leaned into her hand. I was so afraid of being fooled again, he said. After my business partner. After everything. I built this entire competition because I thought people were fundamentally selfish and I needed proof. And what did you find? I found that people are complicated, he said. They are selfish and generous. They are strategic and sincere. They are scared and brave at the same time. And sometimes, very rarely, you find someone who is exactly who they appear to be. No performance. No angle. Just honest. He looked back at her. You were that person, he said. You're still that person. She put her head back on his shoulder. I am also the person who needs you to rub my feet later because I have been standing since 5 in the morning. Done. And the person who is going to eat the last piece of cake. Also done. And the person who is going to need a lot of help in about 7 months. He put his hand gently over hers on her stomach. That one, he said, is the most done of all. Later that night, after the bonfire had burned down to embers and the children had been carried to bed and the families had walked back to their cottages, Zuri sat alone on the terrace. She did this sometimes. Sat by herself at the end of the day and thought about things. Ari found her there. Room for one more? Ari asked. Always. Ari sat down beside her. They looked at the stars. Can I tell you something? Ari said. Of course. My grandmother died last spring. Ari. You did not tell me. I could not talk about it for a while. Ari was quiet. She was the last person in my family who knew me before everything happened. Before the company. Before the loss. Before this island. She knew me when I was just a kid eating cereal on her kitchen floor. I am so sorry. She came to visit the retreat once. 2 years ago. Do you remember? Zuri did remember. A tiny woman with silver hair and a voice like warm gravel who had spent 3 days on the island and told every single child a different story from her life. She told me something before she left, Ari said. She said, you finally found the people who see you right. Ari's voice was not steady. She was talking about all of you, Ari said. This group. This place. She said she could stop worrying about me because I had found people who saw me right. Zuri reached over and took Ari's hand. She was right, Zuri said. She was always right. They sat together in the quiet. I named my newest product line after her, Ari said. It launches next month. 30% of the profits go to the retreat. Zuri squeezed her hand. She would love that, Zuri said. She would have said it was too much fuss, Ari said. And then she would have bought 50 bottles and given them to everyone she knew. They both laughed softly in the dark. The next morning, the last day of the reunion, everyone gathered at the dock. The ferries would come in an hour. Sloane was standing with Elwood near the dock, having a conversation that looked serious and important and probably involved property easements. Ari was on the phone again, but smiling this time. Tianyu was sitting on the edge of the dock with his feet hanging over the water, looking at the horizon. Zuri and Han Seo-jun stood together near the bell tower. I want to do something, Han Seo-jun said. What? He walked to the bell rope. When my mother was alive, he said, she used to ring this bell every time something good happened. Not just in the morning. Whenever there was good news. A child's first visit. A family going home stronger than they arrived. A storm that passed without harm. He took the rope in his hand. We are going to be parents, he said. That is good news. He looked at her. She nodded. He pulled the rope. The bell rang out over the island. Clear and bright and full. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned. Beckett stared at the bell tower with his mouth open. Sloane and Elwood looked up from their conversation. Ari lowered her phone. Tianyu turned from the water. Zuri and I have an announcement, Han Seo-jun said. He did not say what it was. He just looked at Zuri and smiled in a way that said everything. Zuri put her hand on her stomach. It took about 3 seconds. Then Beckett shouted. Ari dropped her phone. Sloane actually gasped, which may have been the first time in her entire life. Tianyu smiled. Elwood, from his chair near the dock, closed his eyes and nodded, like he had known all along. And in the middle of all of it, on an island that had once been a test of whether people could be trusted, Zuri stood with her hand on the future and her heart completely open. 7 months later, on a warm Tuesday in April, their daughter was born. They named her Mira. It meant wonder. It meant look. It meant see. Because that was what this whole story had been about from the very beginning. Seeing people. Not through cameras. Not through challenges. Not through contests designed to expose weakness. Just seeing them. As they are. In the dark. In the storm. In the quiet moments when no one is keeping score. Mira came into the world on the island, in the main house, with Tianyu's medical team standing by and Ari holding Zuri's hand and Beckett pacing the hallway like he was the one having the baby. Sloane arrived on the first ferry the next morning with a legal document she had prepared. It is a trust, she said, handing it to Hanseo Jun in Myra's name, guaranteeing that this island can never be sold, developed, or used for anything other than its current purpose. Even after all of us are gone. Hanseo Jun looked at the document. Then he looked at Sloane. You did this on your own, he said. Yes. Without being asked. Yes. Sloane straightened. Because some things are worth protecting whether anyone asks you to or not. He signed it. Zuri signed it from her bed, with Mira sleeping on her chest, the pen slightly shaky in her hand. And just like that, the island's future was sealed. On Myra's first morning, Elwood rang the bell. He rang it 7 times. 1 for each month Zuri had carried her. 1 for each promise the island had kept. 1 for every person who had come to this place broken and left standing taller. 1 for Mira. The sound carried out over the water and the sand and the trees. And somewhere, in whatever place people go when they leave this world, a woman who once dreamed of an island that healed people heard a bell ringing and knew her son had finally found what she always wanted for him. Not the island. Not the money. Not the legacy. Just a person who made him brave enough to stop watching from a distance and start living in the open. That was all she ever wanted. And it was more than enough. From the wooden sign at the entrance to the Callaway Retreat, carved by Elwood on the island's 5th anniversary. You are seen here, not because we are watching. Because you matter. Rest. Heal. Remember who you are. Then go home and be that person. Even when no one is looking. Especially when no one is looking. This is the end of the island that watches back. If you have made it this far, then you already understand the lesson. But let us say it one more time, clearly, so it stays with you long after you close this story. Who you are when no one is watching is the only version of you that matters. Not the version that performs kindness for applause. Not the version that does the right thing because someone might reward you. Not the version that waits to see what everyone else is doing before deciding what to do. The real version. The one that gives away crackers in an empty room. The one that runs toward the fire without waiting for permission. The one that tells the truth even when the truth is expensive. The one that sits with a hurting person and says nothing because sometimes presence is enough. That version of you is not weakness. It is the strongest thing you will ever be. The world will not always see it. The scoreboard will not always reflect it. The people around you may not always notice. But the right people will. And when they do, everything changes. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that today. Someone who has been carrying too much for too long. Someone who wonders if their quiet goodness makes any difference at all. Tell them, it does. Tell them, someone sees you. Tell them, keep going. That is the lesson of the island. That is the lesson of Zuri and June. That is the only lesson that has ever really mattered.